And welcome to this module on professional persona. What do I mean by that? That's basically what happens when someone Googles on your name and then follows links that refer to material that you've created in hopes of finding something out about you from a professional perspective. And one of the goals of this course is to help you tailor the way Google presents information about you, or what happens when someone follows links to information about you, such that they get the most positive or most appropriate impression of your technical capabilities. And what's interesting about this is, as you try to develop your professional persona, you're going to start to figure out what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. And this is a great thing to figure out while you're in school, because school is the perfect place to try to address weaknesses. So I'm hopeful that this will both motivate you to work hard on this class and motivate you to work hard in your other classes, and motivate you to maybe have different expectations than you might have had before for your other classes. In my opinion, every single class you take should be producing something of value for your professional portfolio. If it's not, then either you're not working in the class in an appropriate way, or maybe you need to talk to the professor about the way you can do some additional work such that it has value to you. So I think there's basically 5 pieces to a professional persona. There should always be some kind of website you develop that's like your professional homepage. And then there should be writings that people can look at to see kind of where you're at, how you think, who you are, what your professional personality is. And then the way you participate in technical social networks like a LinkedIn. I'm not talking about Facebook. And your participation in open source projects, that's crucial, because in computer science, people want to see, can you code? And if you code, what kind of coding do you do? What languages do you know? What libraries and frameworks do you know? How experienced are you in these various things? And they don't really want to look at your resume and you say, somewhat experienced in this and highly experienced in that. They want to actually see what you've done. So by participating in open source projects, or by publishing your projects as open source, this gives people the opportunity to get that detailed understanding of what you can do. Finally, participating in technical forums, Stack Overflow, TechHui, etc., is another way to, and professional societies is another great way to get yourself out there and develop a professional reputation and persona. So the first thing is your portfolio. That's a website you're going to develop. It's a portal to kind of all the other skills and accomplishments and pages and so forth associated with you. We'll use WordPress for this kind of by default. If you're really interested in using GitHub Pages and Jekyll to produce your professional portfolio, come talk to me about it. That's another way to go. You can do, I'm not going to cover that process here. I think WordPress is a little bit easier, but I'm open to other approaches if you check with me first. Second part of it is technical essays. You're going to write a lot of technical essays in this class, and the hope is that you'll get better at writing technical essays over the course of the semester, and the quality of them will improve over time, such that you'll have something nice that people will want to read, and by reading them they'll form a positive impression about you. In order to do that, you have to write for the world, not for me. So while I will be assigning these things to you, and they will in that sense be homework assignments, and they'll be graded, you shouldn't think of them as homework assignments, okay? You should think of them as technical essays that you are creating as a general contribution to the online community that can be read by anybody, any random person that comes across the link by Googling. Okay, that's the style that I want these technical essays to be written in. If they sound like they're just homework submissions, then they reflect poorly on you, and I won't grade them very well. Okay, so you'll get used to that over time, and in fact you'll be happy you wrote them this way, even though it takes a different kind of mindset. Okay, so when I say writing for the world, it means that if some random person comes across it, they will learn something interesting technically about whatever things you're talking about, but they'll hopefully also learn something interesting about you. Okay, that means that these shouldn't be dry, boring, kind of reference manual type postings. There should be some personality in there. And in contrast, if you're just writing something as a homework assignment to me, it's probably not going to be that interesting. You know that only one person is going to read it. They'll spend 30 seconds on it and then give you a grade, and it'll never be read again. So there's no archival value. All right, and it's very easy when you read something to see what your mindset was when you wrote it. So try to write for the world, not for the teacher. Open source projects, this is one of the most important things you can do as a student, is contribute to open source projects or develop projects and publish them in open source. That gives people concrete details on what you're capable of. We're going to use GitHub in this class to publish the projects that you work on. And of course, there's a lot of different places: SourceForge, Google Project Hosting. All of them are good. We're going to use GitHub for this semester. Professional social networks, in this case, LinkedIn and TechHui, are the two places where I want you to at least start developing a presence during this class, and I think that will return dividends to you further on. And finally, technical societies and activities. You can also participate in other kinds of groups, the ACM student chapter, or other places where you can do networking and improve your professional identity. Okay, now, a lot of you, when you start to work on this, it's going to be kind of depressing. You're going to feel like I don't have anything to show the world. And what I want to say to that is, you might have to think a little more creatively at first about what it is that you can present to the world. But if you feel this way, good, because you should definitely be addressing this now as opposed to once you've already graduated. It's a lot harder to address it once you've graduated, because when you go work in a company, a lot of times the work that you do within that company, there are IP restrictions on it. They don't want you to publish the code that you've written, and they maybe don't want you to talk a lot about what you've done. So this is your time for you to develop substantive projects that you can publish online, all the details, all the code, so that people can really get a good impression of what you're capable of. If you're a graduate student, you should be definitely considering doing the thesis option, or at least developing a really significant software project for your capstone experience. If you're an undergraduate, you should be considering talking to folks in the honors program so that you can do an honors thesis or some honors project level work that most positively present yourself to graduate schools or employers and so forth. Okay, so use your time at UH to create the most positive representation of you online as you possibly can, and expect more out of the program and expect more out of yourself as you're doing this, and it will pay immense dividends to you in the future.